There are lots of learning models that have been developed over the years. One of my personal favorites is what's called the 4 levels of competence. This breaks learning down into 4 stages, and I'll go through them now. The first stage is what's called unconscious incompetence. This is when a skill is so new to you, you don't even know what questions to ask. If I were to ask you to migrate a DNS server, or if I were to ask you what you think my NPK analysis should be in my fertilizer this spring, unless you're in those industries, you wouldn't even know where to begin finding out information in order to answer my question. That is unconscious incompetence. You have no frame of reference yet to even know what you need to know. So one level above that is what's called conscious incompetence. This is where you still don't know the things that you need to know, but you have some context now and you know what it is that you're missing. You're starting to understand a little bit and you realize where your deficits are and where you need to go to find the information you need for a skill. One level above that is called conscious competence. This is where you know how to do a skill, you're performing the skill, but you have to think about it while you're doing it. When we first start learning how to drive, this is where we're at. We're in conscious competence. We have to focus a lot on the road. We have to focus on things like changing gears or holding our hands on the steering wheel or interchanging between the gas and the brake. But as we drive more, as we do it, and as it becomes more and more ingrained in our brains, we move from that level to the top level, which is unconscious competence. Unconscious competence is where you are performing a skill, but you don't think about it anymore while you're doing it. You're sort of on autopilot. Anyone who has ever driven to work or driven home and realized when they got there that they weren't thinking about driving at all knows what unconscious competence feels like. You look up and realize you weren't thinking about the road at all. You're not even sure if you saw the road because you were busy thinking about other things. That's unconscious competence. If you can get to a level in any skill where you're doing it without thinking about it, that is called unconscious competence. Here's the issue. If you're trying to teach someone a skill, you cannot teach them from unconscious competence. You have to come down a level into conscious competence in order to explain that skill well to somebody else. If you're in unconscious competence, you don't even know what steps you're performing. So how can we expect you to be able to explain them? But if you're down here where you're thinking about it as you do it, that is a good place to teach somebody. So if you're someone who has ever struggled with a skill, if you had trouble picking it up and you spent a long time in that conscious competence place, you might be the best person to teach that skill. I'm Abby Cook with Lizard Brain Learning.